Welcome to our series exploring the enigmatic realm of unexplained deaths and mysteries. Join us as we delve into perplexing cases that defy conventional understanding, where each clue raises more questions.
The mystery of consciousness, often called the hard problem, is one of the deepest and most enduring puzzles in philosophy, neuroscience, and psychology. At its core, it raises the question, why does subjective experience exist at all? Consciousness isn't simply about the brain processing information. It's about the inner, first-person experience, the sensation of what it is like to be something. For instance, when we look at the color red, we not only perceive its wavelength through our senses and neural processing, but also experience a unique quality or associated with it. The nature of this subjective experience and why certain processes in the brain give rise to conscious awareness remains profoundly enigmatic. One central aspect of this mystery is the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. He distinguishes between easy problems of consciousness, like understanding how the brain processes information or produces behavior, and the hard problem, which concerns why and how these processes lead to subjective experience at all. Unlike physical processes that can be broken down and understood through scientific study, subjective experience seems to resist explanation in purely physical terms. Many theories have emerged from materialist perspectives that assert consciousness arises purely from neural processes to dualist or panpsychist views, which propose that consciousness may be a fundamental aspect of reality. Several theories have been proposed to explain consciousness. For example, the Integrated Information Theory, or IIT, suggests that consciousness corresponds to a system's capacity to integrate information. This implies that complex systems with high levels of interconnectivity may exhibit more conscious experience. Another approach, the Global Workspace Theory, posits that consciousness is like a spotlight on certain brain processes that are broadcast to other parts of the mind, making them accessible to decision-making and self-reflection. These theories attempt to map aspects of consciousness onto neural or computational structures, yet they often fall short of explaining why these mechanisms lead to the unique subjective qualities we experience. The nature of subjective experience also brings up questions about personal identity and the self. How do individual experiences, perceptions, emotions, and thoughts integrate into a single coherent sense of self? While neuroscience has identified parts of the brain involved in self-recognition and introspection, the feeling of being someone remains difficult to explain. Some propose that the self is an illusion, a narrative constructed by the brain to organize experiences, while others argue that self-awareness is a fundamental property of consciousness. Consciousness remains deeply mysterious, as scientific study continues to uncover the what and how of neural processes, but not the why of subjective experience. Philosophers, scientists, and scholars from diverse fields continue to debate whether consciousness is an emergent property of complex systems, a fundamental component of the universe, or something beyond our current understanding entirely. It challenges the limits of scientific inquiry, making it both an intellectual frontier and a source of wonder that ties into profound questions about human existence and reality itself.
The Aurora, Texas UFO incident of 1897 is one of the earliest and most intriguing accounts of a reported UFO crash happening decades before the famed Roswell incident. On April 17, 1897, locals in the small town of Aurora, Texas, reported seeing a cigar-shaped airship that crashed into a windmill on the property of a man named Judge J.S. Proctor. According to an article published shortly after in the impact caused an explosion that scattered debris across the land, allegedly damaging Proctor's property, particularly his windmill and water tank. This crash reportedly left behind metal fragments and, most astonishingly, the remains of what townspeople described as a small alien body. Eyewitnesses who claimed to have seen the body were convinced it was not human. In a strange twist, the townspeople decided to give the extraterrestrial a burial in the local Aurora cemetery, as if it were a deceased person from their own community. A headstone was placed over the grave, etched with a crude image of the supposed airship. This story of the crash and alien burial circulated widely, and over the years it attracted UFO enthusiasts and researchers from around the world. The headstone eventually disappeared, and the site of the grave became a point of contention. When researchers requested permission to exhume the grave in the 1970s, the town denied the request, heightening speculation and mystery. Critics have questioned the credibility of the incident. Some argue that the story was simply a hoax meant to revive the town's declining fortunes. Aurora had been hit hard by a string of tragedies, including a fire, a devastating crop failure, and a spotted fever epidemic. Local resident Brawley Oates, who owned the land years after Judge Proctor, claimed that the water from the well near the crash site made him ill and contributed to his arthritis, further deepening the lore around the crash. Skeptics highlight inconsistencies in the accounts and lack of evidence, attributing the incident to a combination of town desperation and early fascination with the idea of flying machines, as reports of airships were common in the late 19th century. Others, however, believe it represents one of the first documented cases of extraterrestrial visitation. Today, the Aurora incident remains a mystery, fueling both local legend and larger discussions about the possibility of alien life. The Aurora Cemetery even has a historical marker referencing the incident, preserving the story as part of the town's lore and adding to the enduring allure of this early UFO tale. The Tybee Island Nuclear Bomb refers to an undetonated Mark 15 hydrogen bomb lost off the coast of Savannah, Georgia, near Tybee Island in 1958. The incident occurred on February 5th during a training exercise conducted by the U.S. Air Force. A B-47 bomber carrying the 7,600-pound bomb collided mid-air with an F-86 fighter jet. While the crew of the B-47 was able to remain airborne despite sustaining damage, they faced a serious dilemma. The hydrogen bomb was creating a weight imbalance, jeopardizing their control of the aircraft. After consulting with military officials, the pilot was instructed to jettison the bomb to prevent a crash. He released it over the waters near Tybee Island, where it quickly disappeared into the depths of Wassaw Sound. The bomb has been missing ever since. The Mark 15 hydrogen bomb was one of the early, powerful thermonuclear devices developed by the United States. Although not as powerful as later models, it still had an estimated yield of up to 3.8 megatons, about 250 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. According to the Air Force, the bomb did not contain a plutonium core, which would make a nuclear detonation unlikely. However, later investigations and declassified documents have suggested that it may, in fact, contain radioactive materials such as uranium and other explosive elements, raising concerns about its potential danger if disturbed. Over the years, there have been several attempts to locate the missing bomb, but all have been unsuccessful. The U.S. government has downplayed the threat posed by the device, claiming that it is unlikely to cause harm due to its presumed lack of a plutonium trigger. Nonetheless, some nuclear experts have raised concerns about possible environmental hazards, especially if the bomb's casing corrodes and releases radioactive materials into the surrounding waters. The mystery of the Tybee Island bomb has fueled speculation, conspiracy theories, and even local legends. Some residents worry about the environmental impact or the potential for an unintended explosion, while others regard it as a strange piece of local history. In the decades since the incident, various official and private searches for the bomb have taken place, often triggered by reports or rumors, but none have succeeded in locating it. The Tybee bomb remains one of several nuclear weapons lost by the U.S. military during the Cold War, and its exact location and status remain unknown.
The Flatwoods Monster is a mysterious legend that originated in the small town of Flatwoods in Braxton County, West Virginia, following a strange sighting on September 12, 1952. Known also as the Braxton County Monster, this figure has captivated locals and UFO enthusiasts alike, becoming one of the most well-known cases in American UFO folklore. On that September evening, a group of local boys spotted a bright light streaking across the sky. Believing it to be a meteor, they followed it to a nearby farm where they claimed to have encountered an otherworldly object and a terrifying creature. The witnesses, including two young brothers, Edward and Fred May, and their friend Tommy Heyer, quickly shared their story with Edward and Fred's mother, Kathleen May. She, along with a National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon and others, joined the boys to investigate the strange sight. When they reached the area, the group reported seeing a pulsating red light, and soon after, a tall creature with a frightening appearance. Accounts varied, but the creature was generally described as standing around 10 feet tall with a blood-red face and a green metallic or scaly body. Its head was shaped like a spade or ace of hearts with glowing eyes and long thin arms. The creature was said to emit a strong, sulfuric odor, which caused some of the witnesses to feel sick. When Lemon shone his flashlight on the being, it supposedly made a hissing sound and began gliding toward them, prompting the group to flee. The sighting quickly made national news and drew attention from various investigators, including military personnel, media outlets, and civilian UFO researchers. The U.S. Air Force, which was running an official investigation into UFO sightings under Project Blue Book, looked into the incident but did not release any formal conclusions. Skeptics suggested that the light the witnesses saw was likely a meteor, and the creature could have been an owl or other animal perched in a tree, with shadows and their heightened emotional state distorting its appearance. Since then, various theories have emerged about the nature of the sighting. The most common theory, known as the meteor and barn owl hypothesis, suggests that a meteor was observed across parts of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia that evening, which could explain the fiery streak in the sky. Some skeptics propose that the creature was a barn owl, which has a distinctive flat facial disc resembling the ace of spades head witnesses described. The green body could have been a trick of shadows and foliage in the low light. Other theories suggest a government cover-up, with some UFO researchers arguing that Project Blue Book's lack of a formal conclusion and the subsequent military presence indicate that authorities were concealing evidence of a crashed UFO or extraterrestrial encounter. Alternatively, sociologists and psychologists have suggested that Cold War-era fears of atomic and other unknown threats may have amplified the witnesses' anxiety, leading to exaggerated or misinterpreted natural phenomena. The Flatwoods Monster has since become a significant symbol in UFO lore and has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and references in pop culture, including appearances in video games and television. The small town of Flatwoods celebrates the legend with annual festivals, and local businesses sell monster-themed memorabilia. Flatwoods has even erected monster chairs where tourists can take photos, cementing the creature as a source of local pride and fascination. While the Flatwoods Monster remains a mystery, it is a powerful example of how a single event can evolve into a legendary tale, embedding itself deeply into both a community's identity and the broader world of paranormal lore.
In 1974, the discovery of a woman's body in the dunes of Provincetown, Cape Cod, set off one of the longest-running mysteries in U.S. crime history. On July 26th, a 13-year-old girl stumbled upon the remains of a woman estimated to be in her mid-20s to early 30s, lying on a beach towel, her head resting on folded jeans. The woman had been brutally murdered. Her hands were missing, possibly to prevent identification, and some teeth had been removed, further complicating the effort to trace her. Her body was partially decomposed, indicating that she had likely been dead for several weeks, and the cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head. Wearing blue jeans and a bandana, she carried few other clues about her identity or the events that led to her death. Known only as the Lady of the Dunes, her case quickly grew cold despite numerous investigations and extensive nationwide efforts. Over the years, theories abounded. Some suspected a connection with organized crime, while others pointed to infamous killers like Haddon Clark and James Whitey Bulger. One of the more intriguing theories emerged from author Joe Hill, who speculated that the Lady of the Dunes might be an extra in the 1975 film, which was filmed in Martha's Vineyard, not far from the crime scene. A woman in the background of the movie appeared to wear similar clothing to those found on the Lady of the Dunes, reigniting public interest and sparking renewed speculation. Still, despite repeated attempts with facial reconstructions, DNA testing, and dental records, no new information came to light. This enduring mystery finally saw a breakthrough nearly 5 decades later, in 2022, when advancements in forensic genealogy allowed authorities to identify the Lady of the Dunes as Ruth Marie Terry, a 37-year-old woman from Tennessee. Her DNA was linked to living relatives, at last revealing her name and life story. The revelation opened new lines of investigation, with law enforcement examining individuals close to her and re-examining old evidence to determine how she ended up in the dunes of Cape Cod. In a conclusive turn, authorities ultimately named her husband as her killer, solving the Lady of the Dunes case. What had been one of America's longest-standing cold cases now had answers, with the tragic details of Terry's death finally coming to light. Her story serves as a somber reminder of the advances in forensic science and the unwavering dedication of investigators who spent decades seeking justice for a woman once known only as the Lady of the Dunes.
Have you ever looked into the Paleolithic cave art in Europe? Those ancient paintings are just incredible, but the mystery behind them is just as fascinating.
I know. They're so old, like tens of thousands of years, right? And the artwork's amazing. I wonder how people back then even managed to create something that survived this long.
Exactly. Some of these paintings go back as far as 40,000 years. Chauvet Cave in France, for instance, has paintings that are around 36,000 years old. And in El Castillo Cave in Spain, there's art that might be 40,800 years old. Can you imagine? These might be the oldest known artworks by humans.
It's crazy. And what they painted? Animals, right? I've seen photos. Horses, bison, mammoths. It's like they were drawing what mattered most to them.
Yes! Animals were the main subjects, almost like the ancient humans wanted to capture the spirit of these creatures. Some scientists think they had a spiritual or symbolic connection to these animals. And some caves show incredible detail and technique, like shading to make them look three-dimensional. They were definitely skilled artists, using charcoal and ochre pigments to get these effects.
It makes you wonder why they went through all that trouble. I mean, they had to go deep into these caves in total darkness. They would have needed some kind of torch or fire just to see what they were doing.
That's part of the mystery. Why go to such a hidden place? Some researchers believe the art might have had a spiritual or ritualistic purpose. Maybe they thought caves were connected to a spirit world, like they were painting inside a sacred space.
Or maybe it was something practical, like hunting magic. I've read that some theories say the paintings were a way to increase hunting success, like, if I paint a bison, I'll catch a bison.
Yeah, that's a big theory too. Others think the paintings might have been a way to teach or communicate, maybe to show others what animals looked like, or to tell a story. I mean, we can only guess. But it does feel like they were trying to communicate something important.
That makes sense. And what about those abstract symbols and handprints? The animals are incredible, but the symbols are so mysterious.
Right. There are all sorts of geometric shapes, dots, lines, even grids, and the handprints. Some of them are missing fingers, which could mean different things. Maybe they were injured, or maybe it was symbolic, like a ritual gesture. It's so fascinating because they appear in multiple caves, as if the symbols had shared meanings.
It's like a whole language we can't understand. And those handprints, maybe they're signatures, like a way of marking, I was here. It's amazing to think of people leaving a piece of themselves behind, like an early form of identity or pride in their work.
Exactly. And because these caves are fragile, a lot of them are closed off now. Human presence damages them over time, so they've made replicas for people to visit. Lascaux Cave, for instance, has a replica called Lascaux 2. It's almost identical to the real one, but people can explore it without harming the original paintings.
That's good. But it must be sad not to see the real thing. I get why they want to protect them, though. It's a wonder these paintings lasted this long in the first place.
And it's even more mysterious because we don't know exactly who made them. Most were likely Homo sapiens, our ancestors, but some evidence suggests that Neanderthals might have done similar art in other parts of Europe. That could mean Neanderthals also had symbolic or artistic expression.
I'd love to know what was going on in their minds. Did they paint these animals to tell stories or to feel connected to nature? And did they think of it as art, or was it something even bigger?
That's the big question, right? We may never know. But it's amazing to think these images are an echo from thousands of years ago, showing that even then, humans were expressing something deeply creative, maybe even something spiritual.
It's like the ultimate mystery. These paintings give us a peek into their world, but they'll always keep some secrets to themselves.
The mystery surrounding the Soviet submarine K-129 remains one of the most enigmatic Cold War-era incidents. In March 1968, the K-129, a Soviet Golf II-class ballistic missile submarine, was lost in the Pacific Ocean with 98 crew members on board. While the exact reasons for its sinking are still unclear, the submarine was on a routine patrol mission and was last heard from on March 8. When it failed to check in as scheduled, the Soviet Navy launched a massive search operation, but their efforts were unsuccessful. The K-129 was ultimately found by the United States after intercepting Soviet naval activity and conducting a covert search. Using specialized deep-sea equipment, the US was able to locate the wreck nearly 16,500 feet down, about 1,560 miles northwest of Hawaii. The United States discovery of K-129's location led to one of the most ambitious and secretive intelligence operations of the Cold War, known as Project Azorian. The operation, authorized by the CIA, sought to recover the submarine and its contents, including potential nuclear missiles, Soviet codes, and classified equipment. To avoid suspicion, the CIA worked with billionaire Howard Hughes, who publicly announced that he was constructing a deep-sea mining vessel, for seabed mineral extraction. However, the vessel was actually designed to recover the submarine. In 1974, the successfully retrieved a portion of K-129's hull and some crew remains. Despite its partial success, much of the mission's results remain classified. To this day, there are no official confirmations on what was retrieved, nor why the submarine sank. Multiple theories exist to explain the fate of K-129. The most widely accepted hypothesis among Soviet experts was a mechanical failure or accidental explosion, but American officials have speculated on other possibilities, including a collision with a US submarine or an attempted rogue mission. One theory suggests that K-129's crew might have been involved in an unsanctioned mission to launch a nuclear missile at Hawaii, intending to provoke the United States and then blame China for the attack. However, this theory is not widely accepted due to the lack of substantial evidence and is often dismissed as speculative. The recovery operation sparked diplomatic tension between the Soviet Union and the United States, with the Soviets aware of but unable to prevent the American recovery efforts. The secrecy surrounding Project Azorian remained intact until 1975, when a journalist uncovered details, leading the CIA to respond with the famous phrase, "We can neither confirm nor deny," giving birth to what is now called the Glomar response. This phrase became a standard tactic used by US intelligence agencies when discussing classified matters. To this day, the K-129 incident remains a subject of intrigue and speculation. Most details about what exactly caused the submarine's sinking and what information or materials were ultimately recovered by the Americans remain locked away in classified files. The story of K-129 is emblematic of the Cold War era's secrecy, intrigue, and competition between superpowers, with both nations still unwilling to divulge the full details of this extraordinary episode.
The case of Jack the Stripper. Now, there's a mystery that still grips the imagination, even decades later. Picture London in the 1960s, gritty, industrial, and full of shadows. It was a city still finding its feet after the war, with certain areas struggling in the grip of poverty and crime. And into this world stepped a killer, one whose name would be whispered in fear but whose face was never seen. His crimes began to surface between 1964 and 1965, a spree of at least 6 murders. Some say it might have been more. All young women, all sex workers, and all found naked, their clothes stripped away like some macabre calling card. The press, ever quick to coin a nickname, called him Jack the Stripper, drawing a dark parallel to that other infamous Jack the Ripper. The bodies, you see, were discovered in places like the River Thames or abandoned industrial sites in West London, desolate, eerie spots that seemed chosen to taunt the police. The victims showed signs of asphyxiation, though not always in the same way, and it wasn't just their state of undress that connected the crimes. There were other details. Traces of paint particles on the bodies suggesting the killer might have worked in a job where such materials were common. Yet despite these clues, the investigation hit brick wall after brick wall. Now here's where it gets truly puzzling. There were suspects, plenty of them. Mungo Island, for instance, was a security guard near one of the dump sites. When he killed himself in 1965, he left behind a note that read, "I can't stick it any longer." Some saw that as a confession, but there was no hard evidence linking him to the murders. And then there was Harold Jones, a convicted child killer who had served his time and was living quietly in London during the killings. His history made him a chilling candidate, but again, nothing solid. Can you imagine the frustration of the detectives on this case? This was long before DNA analysis or modern profiling. They had to rely on witness statements, hunches, and circumstantial evidence. And even then, they faced societal indifference. After all, these were sex workers. The public, and sadly even the police, often saw them as disposable, which meant the urgency to solve the case wasn't as strong as it might have been for victims from more respectable walks of life. And then, just as suddenly as they started, the murders stopped. The killer vanished into the fog of history, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and shattered lives. Over the years, theories have abounded. Was he a local? Someone with a grudge against women of the night, or perhaps someone with a more personal vendetta? Some even suggest he was an opportunist who simply decided to stop, if such monsters can ever simply stop. The case remains open to this day, a haunting reminder of how fragile justice can be. And of course, people still speculate, piecing together theories from scraps of old reports and testimonies. But in the end, Jack the Stripper remains a phantom, an enigma lost in the shadows of a bygone London.
The Montauk Project is a widely discussed conspiracy theory centered on alleged secret experiments conducted at Camp Hero, a decommissioned Air Force base in Montauk, New York. The theory first gained traction with Preston B. Nichols's book, 1982, which details supposed government-sanctioned experiments involving mind control, time travel, interdimensional travel, and contact with extraterrestrial life. The narrative often ties the Montauk Project to earlier conspiracy theories, particularly the Philadelphia experiment, a supposed 1943 experiment aimed at rendering the USS Eldridge invisible to radar, which allegedly led to unintended time travel phenomena. According to proponents, survivors and remnants of the Philadelphia experiment were later involved in the Montauk experiments, which aimed to further explore and weaponize such phenomena. One of the central claims is that the Montauk Project utilized advanced technologies, allegedly involving electromagnetic fields and esoteric sciences, to manipulate human consciousness. These experiments purportedly included creating psychic soldiers, inducing telepathy, and even programming individuals for covert operations. A recurring figure in the lore is a Montauk chair, a device said to amplify psychic abilities to open portals to other times and dimensions. Critics argue that the Montauk Project lacks credible evidence and is primarily based on anecdotal accounts and pseudoscience. Skeptics view the claims as a mixture of urban legend, fabricated stories, and misinterpretations of historical events. However, the theory persists in popular culture, inspiring films, books, and TV shows, notably the Netflix series. Believers in the Montauk Project suggest that secrecy surrounding Camp Hero and other military installations lends credence to the possibility of undisclosed activities. Despite debunking efforts, the theory continues to fascinate conspiracy enthusiasts, serving as a lens for broader societal anxieties about government overreach, technological ethics, and the unknown.
Göbekli Tepe, located in southeastern Turkey, is one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites in the world. Discovered in the 1960s, but not extensively excavated until the 1990s by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, it is often referred to as the world's oldest known temple. Dating back to approximately 9600 BCE, Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge by more than 6,000 years and was constructed by hunter-gatherer societies during a time before agriculture and settled life were believed to have emerged. This challenges conventional narratives about the development of human civilization. The site is composed of a series of massive circular and oval megalithic enclosures, each featuring T-shaped limestone pillars, some of which are intricately decorated with carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and human-like figures. These carvings provide a glimpse into the symbolic and spiritual world of the site's builders, though their precise meanings remain unknown. The sheer scale of construction, combined with the advanced artistic and engineering skills displayed, raises profound questions about how these hunter-gatherer communities were organized and what drove them to undertake such monumental efforts. One of Göbekli Tepe's greatest mysteries lies in its purpose. Unlike later temples, there is no evidence of permanent settlement around the site, suggesting it may have been a gathering place for rituals or a ceremonial center for regional groups. The fact that it was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE further deepens the intrigue. Scholars debate whether the burial was a ritual act, an effort to preserve the structures, or simply a practical response to changing social or environmental conditions. Göbekli Tepe has fundamentally reshaped our understanding of prehistoric societies, showing that the development of complex social and spiritual practices may have preceded and even catalyzed the advent of agriculture and sedentism rather than arising as a consequence of them. However, many aspects of the site remain shrouded in mystery, including the identity of its builders, the details of its construction techniques, and the full extent of its cultural significance. As excavations and research continue, Göbekli Tepe stands as a testament to the sophistication of ancient human ingenuity and the enduring puzzles of our shared past.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the unexplained. We hope these mysteries have sparked your curiosity and encouraged you to delve deeper into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth.